It's time to talk about the Europa League and what a tie we have here. Barcelona against Manchester United at the Nou Camp. This is, people, they turn their nose up at Thursday football, but this is one hell of a tie that is here for us to get our teeth into. There's, looking at it, you've got Xavi putting together this Barcelona side in a really exciting, old school, but somehow with a new little modern twist to it. And then Man United kind of starting to gently get back to where they certainly want to be, or challenging at the very least. And they're both just kind of being done in very, very different ways. Let's start with Barcelona, because Barcelona have won 15 of their last 16. They didn't lose any of those. I think the last time they lost was Bayern Munich in the Champions League a long, long time ago. They've scored 42 goals. They've only conceded 7 in 20 matches. And in terms of the style of the play for Barcelona, it is that throwback. I was looking at their sort of numbers, and in terms of passes, they're right up there with PSG and Man City, which we expect with the possession. I then looked at the sort of progressive distance of those passes, and they were a long way down. And I think that what that says to me is that it's very, very lateral. They are utilising that width, something that Pep Guardiola's kind of moved away from a little bit when it comes to Man City, because they've got Haaland up top. But Barcelona, it's pure. And in terms of pure players, one player that you absolutely love, who's going to be huge in this one, Pedri, right? Talk to me about him.
Yeah, we sat here during the World Cup and we were having a debate over Pedri, Bellingham and Musiala, I think. I think I was criticised for saying that I feel that Pedri is like a blend of Xavi and Iniesta with the modern day footballer, because he is just outstanding. He chooses when the game gets going. At that age, to do that when you've got someone like Frankie next to you, who is a dictator of all things, he gets the ball off centre back so he can play 25, 30 yard like pings out to his fullback. He can get the ball off his striker, take on two players. He can pop the ball wide into Gavi and Rafinha. He's got the entire package. It's to a point where when you used to watch Barcelona, you thought, like, how do you stop Iniesta? How do you stop Xavi? You couldn't, because they will find spaces in your midfield. And like you say, because Barca have this throwback style of whenever someone's got the ball, there's always 3 options, essentially. You can't stop teams that play like that. You've just got to hope that someone's not having an off day, and United aren't exactly a counter-pressing team either. So I think, like, you can't put a chokehold on this guy. There's just no way. And in my opinion, he's like streets ahead of Bellingham. He's streets ahead of Musiala because of what he can do on the pitch on his own.
Do you think that's part of? I mean, it's turned into a different debate now. But if you take Pedri and pop him into some other teams, other leagues, without that ingrained system of Barcelona, do you still think he's, because you put Bellingham in any team, he's got that kind of, physicality, but he'll drive past players. He kind of Steven Gerrard vibe to him.
Yeah.
Pedri, is it just the same?
Yeah. Well, you look at his manager, Xavi. Would Xavi have been the same if he was managed? If he didn't have that Pep Guardiola influence? As a player, certain managers come about and they bring about the best in you, and just your development is your development. Maybe Bellingham's got skills that translates all over. And you can play in different leagues, but Pedri in this Barcelona team, and the Barcelona team that he's probably going to play for the rest of his life, is. He is him. He is him. He is unbelievable. And I am conversive, because I remember having this discussion with Nubaid before during the World Cup, and Bellingham was the name on everybody's lips. But seeing Pedri and seeing him pick up big goals as well in important games, he's just, like I say, dictating things. And Xavi knows better than anybody that, like, especially in Spanish football, it comes from your midfield, and he's got that set midfield three of Busquets, Frankie, and Pedri, and then Kessie can come into that. And we've got, obviously, Gavi's waiting in the halls, and we haven't talked about how great he is as a player, and he's obviously young and he's got a lot to learn, but they've just got it ticking right now, this Barcelona team. And like I say, it's a bit of a throwback. There's always options for the man on the ball, and it's very, very difficult to stop them. And Manchester United are going to have to be on their A game if they're going to stand any chance in this one.
I think they were really unfortunate to be in that Champions League group that they were in. Yeah. I think if you put them in, no offence to Bruges, but Bruges are like with Porto and Atletico Madrid, who are obviously like struggling, whereas Barcelona with, what was it, Inter Milan, Bayern Munich, that's a tough place to be.
Also, it came early for them as well in their development. I think over the last 15 games, you've seen that they're now developing closer towards what Xavi wants, which is, as you say, a blend of possession football, but also they've now got athletes all across the park. And so they can hit the ball into Rafinha, and they can hit the ball into Lewandowski, who we haven't even spoken about actually, but he's been on great form this season. And I just think with Pedri, on back to that topic of whether he can play in any other division. I really think he can. When Barca were poor last year, he was still brilliant. And if you look at his heat map, it's red everywhere.
Yeah.
Because
well, I find that interesting. I was looking at all of them. Is that their average position is actually quite deep as a team because they play at their tempo. And I think it will be one that if they got to the levels that Xavi did as a player and what he probably wants with Barcelona, then it would get to a point where people be a little bit bored of it. But right now, in terms of both where those average positions are, but then when they're touching the ball so much higher up. And actually, again, it's, you see it with Pep Guardiola and his teams as well. The positions that they put on a lineup, they're non-existent, really. They're all over the place. Yeah. Lewandowski, we were talking about him in terms of the goals. He's scoring 14 goals so far from an XG of 12.3. Sorry,
XG of 2. Wow.
Yeah, he's running hot. But a striker who's definitely running hot right now. But hopefully for the foreseeable is Rashford. 12 goals and 3 assists in the Premier League this year. Scored more goals than anyone else since the World Cup ended. Scoring headers now as well. When it comes to Man United being able to stop Barcelona, of course they're going to have the ball a lot, but so have some of the teams that Man United have played this season. Do you think it's one where you've got that ingrained philosophy of Barcelona, but for Man United it's going to be about the nous of Casemiro, Sabitzer and Ten Hag? Yeah,
it's going to be about getting at Barcelona early and making them have to think about going the other way. And that Rashford has a huge part to play in that. He's an interesting one though. You brought him up. It's difficult to work out if he's a 9 or he's a winger, because Marcus Rashford, if you're playing him out on the left and he's not giving you a goal or an assist, he doesn't give you too much, but he hasn't got yet the nous to be an actual number 9 playing within the width of the box. So he's kind of a hybrid, and at the moment he's scoring a lot of goals. It's great, but when those goals eventually dry up and he's not scoring at the rate he is right now, what is Marcus Rashford and where does everybody else fit in and around him? But in this game against Barcelona, he's going to be a key man for Manchester United because he is in red hot form. I can't really see many teams stopping him score goals.
I do think one thing that Ten Hag has done quite well is being tactically flexible. So he doesn't go into... Even the Leeds game actually is a good example. It became a scrap and he just decided we'll just scrap with them for a little while and just hang in the game because we've got players who can win us the game. Yeah. I think the Barca game will actually suit them. Barca averaged 65% possession in La Liga. So I think the plan for United will be quite simple. Let them have the ball and hit them on the counter. And it has worked for Ten Hag this season against City. It is, I think it sort of kind of worked against Arsenal, even though Arsenal dominated the game and then won the game. But I think he will allow his side to be more humble, which is something I think is credit to him because they've won games by being humble at times. And Rashford is a massive part of that. I also look on the other side. One thing they haven't figured out is who can play on the right. And Jordi Alba is defensively very sus. Now, I think it'll probably be Balde who plays there. But if Alba plays there, you've got to play anyone who's got pace because Alba does not like defending. Well,
so is this one for... Obviously, Jadon Sancho's kind of come back in, started the game against Leeds, but Garnacho came on. Is this one where you go with Garnacho or not?
They tried that the game before. Garnacho played off the left and Rashford off the right. Rashford can't play off the right. And Garnacho can only play off the left, which is kind of the dilemma they've got. And I think it's, again, a little too early for Sancho. Even against Leeds, you saw there's moments where you can see the Sancho that wants to go forward, but for the most part, he still wants to bring the ball backwards. You've also got Anthony there, but again, Anthony's not going to drive into space. In a lot of ways, you sort of were hoping Martial was fit because he can play off that side. But it's one of those where I think it actually kind of suits United in a lot of ways.
Do you really believe that? I can't see. This screams... If Man United win this, it's based, it's what's the phrase I'm trying to find? Basically, like hit and run. Like it's just a sneaker goal, maybe from a set piece. Yeah. It sounds like very basic analysis, but when you control the ball the way that Barcelona do, and they've been as dominant as they have been in La Liga this year, I think it does translate. And I sort of looked at even that Villarreal game. Look, Villarreal are not Man United, but the way that they kind of set up, it was very similar to how Man United set up against Man City, where they were kind of proactive with that press. But Barcelona just still had all that tappiness.
You cannot press Barca.
Yeah.
You've got Jules Koundé who's playing right back, is essentially a ball-playing centre-back. Then you've got Ronaldo Araujo, who we haven't even spoken about. He's the best centre-back in the world right now, along with probably Eder Militao. And he can play as well. So Barca, if you think back to Barca of old, like you said right at the start of the video, you couldn't press Barca's back line. People would always go, Puyol can't pass the ball. They'd find a way for Puyol to be able to pass the ball.
Yeah.
So you cannot press teams that are that press resistant. It's the same with City. I think like United trying to press, they're going to kill themselves. Because then on the flip side...
But I don't think, in terms of press, it's not an all-out press.
Proactive press, yeah.
It's exactly. It's that kind of that shoehorn shape to kind of keep them out to the
and
side.
also
Not
picking your moments as well, and relying on the nous of experienced players. And like you said, Casemiro's going to have a huge part to play because the midfield is where it happens for Barcelona, and that's where United, if they're gonna get anything out of this game, their key men in the midfield are gonna have to turn up and play. And I think this is the game where they probably will. I've not been the biggest fan of him this season, but Christian Eriksen is a shame that he's injured because I think in a game like this he'd be very effective. And the fact they haven't got him is a huge loss. And I've not minded what I've seen from Sabitzer since he's come in, but Eriksen would have been a huge play for Manchester United in this game. But I just can't see past Barcelona. They are so good.
I'm with you, Kweku. I just can't. It just feels like it'll be that water torture, and I think maybe Rashford gets you that. Feels a bit like the Champions League final where like Rooney got a goal because he was running so hot, but really Barcelona were kind of always in control. I feel like it may turn out to be that, but again that now I keep thinking about Sabitzer and Casemiro, and they could provide a little bit of difference there. Martinez and Varane, maybe Martinez with his great passing range might be able to offer him something, but I think if Barcelona turn up, which they normally do, it has to be theirs for me. What do you think?
Yeah, I'll back Barca at home, but I think it'll be tighter than we think. I think United will keep themselves alive to take them to Old Trafford. It's classic, like European football. I was going to say Champions League. Sorry, maybe next year.
More likely than you. You need to win it.
I reckon Barca will hold them out probably for a 2-1. But then I think United at OT will fancy themselves.
Yeah. What we haven't talked about what you have in terms of individuals, but Barcelona's defence is historic at the moment. You can see the 7 league goals in the league. It's insane how good they are all over the park, and I just think United struggle to score. I think Barcelona win this one 2-0.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube, and for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app, and for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.